Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to the Ground and Pound cast. Thank you for tuning in. We just came off of UFC Fight Night in Qatar. Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. This was a fight night. It was a free card on ESPN, and I wouldn't have known it if I was just watching it without anyone telling me that it wasn't a pay-per-view, because this card just was full of banger after banger, nothing but a whole bunch of exciting fights from beginning to end. This was just as good as any pay-per-view I've seen lately, and I am joined with a man who's going to help me break down this card, Nostradamus, we like to call him Roy for short. And as always, it is me, the world's okayest jiu-jitsu blue belt, Vince. So thank you for tuning in as we break down this awesome card. Roy, what did you think about this card overall?
Overall, it was an amazing card. Just one great fight after another. Perfect matchmaking, and you know, we almost got through the night without eye pokes.
Almost. But alas, we had to have second to last match. The co-main event had, was it 2 or 3 eye pokes?
2 that stopped the fight, 3 overall, all from Gary to Bilal.
Right. And we'll be talking about that when we get to their fight. We're going to go ahead and start from the top and work our way down. So the main event here, we had Arman Tsarukyan going against Dan Hooker in a fight that, I don't know if you could really call this a number one contender fight, but it's definitely a fight where the winner of this fight's probably either next or next in line to fight for the title. And this fight lasted.
I don't see how you can deny Arman a shot at Ilya at this point. Whether Ilya wants to take the fight or not, Arman's earned it.
Right. I mean, he was already number contender. Well, actually, beyond number one contender, he was put in the spot where he was supposed to challenge for the title, and it had to pull out like last minute. And that's when Moicano had to step in last notice, like 2 days notice or something like that, or maybe it was 1 day notice against Islam Makhachev. So Arman, I can't remember why he pulled out, but he's already been granted the title shot already. But because he pulled out, he kind of lost a few spots, had to get a couple more wins, and he's looked good in all of those fights. And in this fight, man, a lot of people thought Dan Hooker was going to make it difficult. That's just not what happened. At no point did Dan Hooker look like he had anything going for him in this fight. It was very one-sided from beginning to end. So it ends a little bit past the halfway mark of the second round. It was like 3/4 of the way, 3 minutes and 34 seconds into the second round. Arman Tsarukyan wins by an arm triangle submission, but that's not the highlight of the fight. The highlight was everything else. Arman in the stand-up, in the striking, was crisper. He was faster. His timing was better. His defense was better. There was nothing that Dan Hooker was able to really throw at him, and so Arman just outstruck him. And then at one point in the first round, Dan Hooker decided to start trying to grapple a little bit, and almost looked like he started to sync something up. But people forget how good Arman Tsarukyan's grappling is, and he ended up turning it around, finished on top, and was taking it to Dan Hooker on the ground when the bell sounded. Second round was pretty much a repeat of the first round, except for whenever Dan Hooker again tried to do a little bit of grappling, went down to the ground with him, tried to sink in a choke, and Arman got in control of him on the ground. There's a lot more time on the clock in the second round, and it just resulted in eventually him sinking in a choke. That's basically the entire fight. So Dan Hooker was way slower. That's the biggest takeaway I had. Dan Hooker was so much slower than Arman Tsarukyan. What did you think?
I thought after the headbutt at weigh-ins that I wanted Dan Hooker to have a better showing.
Yeah, me too.
I really expected this fight to be a lot more competitive than it was. Arman went out there and showed why he's the number one contender and why he deserves the next shot at the strap.
Yeah, the headbutt was kind of annoying. Arman Tsarukyan has a history of assaulting people outside of the cage, so I'm honestly not a fan of the guy. He kind of has an attitude problem. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. You know, whenever the cage door closes and you fight, you put on good performances, you're going to work your way up, and Arman is great at what he does. And I just can't get over the speed difference between these two. It was just so much different. It looked like Dan Hooker was fighting in slow motion compared to Arman. He is really good at what he does. He's very well-rounded. He's got crisp, very accurate striking. It's nothing too flashy. It's just simple, I guess you could say, and effective. And then his submission game, maybe a little bit of a weakness in that he allows himself to get taken down. A few times I've seen him get put into submission predicaments. We saw that when he fought Charles Oliveira. We saw that last night when he fought Dan Hooker. But he's able to get out of everything. And then if you're going to stay on the ground with him, he is going to turn it around on you. And you're either going to hit you with some ground and pound or some submission attacks of his own. So he's very well-rounded. Definitely a dangerous guy. And he is wanting that fight with Ilia Topuria. Apparently they had a little drama backstage. I can't remember if it was before or after the fight itself, but he has a little bit of drama with Ilia Topuria, so that would be an interesting fight in the build-up and the fight itself. How do you think that fight would go if they fought?
I think Arman could take Ilia. I think that Arman is the hardest fight that Ilia could have right now.
I agree that he is the hardest fight.
Without changing weight classes.
It is the hardest fight in the lightweight division for Ilia Topuria, but I still have Ilia winning that one, to be honest with you.
No, I think that Arman would take it in the end.
I mean, we shall see. Hopefully this fight happens so we could settle that question. I do agree, looking at the lightweight division, I think this stylistically and just overall talent-wise, that would be the biggest challenge for Ilia. But
yeah, because Ilia is just going to lose to Patty. Arman, it would at least be a competitive fight until Arman took him out.
So when you talk about Ilia Topuria, Patty Pimblett, and Arman Tsarukyan, Ilia and Arman both honestly annoy me a lot. So I like Patty more, but I'm sorry. My opinions of him doesn't change how I think the fights would go, and I kind of can't help but chuckle whenever you say that you think Patty's going to beat Ilia Topuria.
It's going to be proven. You will see.
Okay, well, we'll answer this one. Is Ilia fighting Patty or Arman first?
Man, it should be Arman. Patty needs one more win before he's earned it, but it really looks like with him jumping the rankings while being inactive that they're gearing up to jump him for the title.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Arman was already number 1 or number 2 in the rankings.
Arman was number 1. Patty was number 7 after his last win was adjusted out. And since then, he's moved up to number 5 without doing anything.
Right. So, yeah, Arman is just next in line according to the numbers. So, I got Ilia beating both these guys, but we shall just have to see. We have to wait and see how that plays out. Now, another question. What's next for Dan Hooker? And I actually have a very funny response to this because Dan Hooker got asked the same question recently in an interview, I guess, earlier today. But what do you think's next for Dan Hooker?
Oh, that's a really good question. I guess maybe put him up against Moicano.
You know, actually, he did mention Moicano.
Let him fight Chandler and build his confidence.
He would wreck Chandler. I don't know. Have they fought already? I can't remember. I don't think they fought already. That would be a good one just to boost his confidence. Let me double check real quick. Nah, it doesn't look like he's fought. Oh, yeah, he has. He's already TKO'd Chandler. Okay, so he has fought him. So there's an interview recently. I guess it was like the day after the fight. And someone was asking him, you know, what's next? And he goes, well, at this point, it's pretty much understood. And I'm kind of paraphrasing here. He says, pretty much understood that I won't have another chance at the title again because, you know, he just was fighting the number 1 contender and lost. So he's like, I'm not going to have another shot at the title. So basically, I'm going to go as long as I can. Since I don't have an opportunity of winning the belt, I'm just going to try to ruin as many other people's opportunities as possible trying to go for the belt. So I just want to make everyone else's life hell in the meantime. I thought that was kind of a funny response. And then he said he thinks Moicano would be a good matchup because they both suck, is his words. I disagree. I don't think Dan Hooker sucks. I definitely don't think Moicano sucks. Big fan of Moicano. I think I said that last episode. But that would be an interesting fight. That would be a very entertaining fight, if nothing else, because both those guys really like to throw down. So,
yeah, 100%. And at least he's aware of his station in life, that he's going to be a gatekeeper for the rest of his career. And he's not disappointed with that. That says a lot about the man.
Right. Now, we'll say people shouldn't have this mentality that because they are kind of gatekeeper status now that it'll be impossible for them to get a title later on. Because we've had a few fighters that were in that situation where I have like a 67% rule. If you really look at a lot of fighters who are like low top 10 gatekeepers, most of them have a 2 to 3, like 2 out of 3 win ratio. It's around 67% fights they win. If you're around there, you're pretty much the epitome of gatekeeper. And I've seen people that were like that will suddenly get a hot streak and they end up winning a title anyway. Maybe even someone who's even less than that. They just kind of find something new, maybe that they haven't seen themselves before, start putting a game together, and they go on a really nice hot streak. They win a title. I give you an example. One of my favorite fighters of all time, Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler was in the UFC long time ago, and he was kind of a low-level gatekeeper. He was not incredible. He wasn't bad. He gave us fun fights, but you never looked at him and thought future champion. Eventually, because he had a decent amount of losses, he got cut from the UFC, went to a few other a few other organizations and had mixed success over there, and eventually got enough wins where he earned his way back into the UFC. And then all of a sudden he goes on a tear, works his way up to the title, wins the title, even gets a few title defenses before he loses it. And now he's in the Hall of Fame. And once upon a time, he was pretty much viewed the same way, a gatekeeper that's probably never going to get a shot, So yeah. Never count anyone out is what I'm getting at. So I'm not saying for sure that I think Dan Hooker's future champion. I'm just saying never say never. Matter of fact, I'll look at it right here. Whenever Robbie Lawler competed for the title and won the title, I'm looking at it right here. He won the title. Robbie Lawler is 25-10. 25 wins, 10 losses. So yep. that's like just barely over. That's like barely over that 67% that I mentioned earlier. Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to this next. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hooker's 35 years old, so he's still got time, but he's on the back end of his slide.
Yeah. 24-13 that's a little bit less than 67%.
Yep.
It's around 63, something like that. I don't know. I can't do that. I just look and I think if I multiply your losses by 2 and it equals your wins, that's 67%. So that's 2 out of 3, and he's just under that mark. So you'll start noticing that. Now watch, when you start looking at a fighter, you're going to be looking at their win-loss record, and you're going to start saying that's 2/3, that's 67%. Gatekeeper, I've noticed that for years.
The next two we'll be talking about are nowhere near gatekeeper status.
No, absolutely not. So this fight I actually really liked. The judges scored at 30-27. Two of the judges did it 30-27. One had it 29-28. I had it 29-28. You had Ian Machado Gary going against Bilal Muhammad. Ian Gary working his way up to the title shot. Bilal Muhammad, a former champion, didn't get any title defenses, but hey, he won the title, so kudos to him. And they had a pretty close fight. Now, I've seen some people debating online about the way that this fight should have gone, and I kind of have some mixed feelings on it. I will say that I disagree with the 30-27, but I've been rambling enough. You go ahead and take over a little bit and tell us what you think about that fight.
So I had this fight tied at 28-28. I gave Bilal one round, but I took a point for each of the eye pokes that stopped the fight. I was under the impression going into this that they were going to start taking points for this and that the judges were the ones who were going to take the points, not the ref. So it surprised me that no points were taken at all. And just to throw it out there, it surprised Herb Dean too, because he said we all agreed we were going to start taking points for fouls. So this should not have been an out-and-out win for Gary. I have no idea where they came up with 30-27, but I had it 28-28.
All right, so I saw some people saying that they had it, if you don't take away points on the eye pokes, just just a straight fight performance perspective. I had some people saying that they had it 29-28 Bilal. Some had it, 29-28 Gary. A few had it 29-28 Bilal. And they said if you were to factor in any points deducted, it would have been a draw. It would have been 28-28 because it would have been like a 29-28 win for Ian. And then with the point deduction, if you just take away 1 point, that turns it into 28-28 and it'd be a draw. Now, as far as the judges taking away the point instead of the ref, I haven't heard that officially. I don't know if that's true. I think that's a bad move because judges are not officials. Also, judges are stupid. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I don't care if that hurts any feelings. It's the truth, and I think most MMA fans or most combat sports fans would agree with me. The judges at the end of the day really dictate things. If a judge turns around, if a ref, I might have messed up my wording back there. The refs are the ones who really dictate things. And if a ref turns to the judges and says he is getting deducted 1 point because of this reason, then it happens on the scores and there's nothing the judges could do about it. So I think that the refs should still be in charge of any point deductions. The thing that needs to change is they need to do it more often. I'm tired of these multiple stern warnings.
Yeah, didn't they actually say next time's a stern warning, and then it happened again, and it was like stern warning?
Right. Yeah, I really don't know what's going on with the overuse of all the stern warnings. Like, they already said after the whole Tom Aspinall fiasco with Tsarukyan that they were going to be a lot strict on the eye pokes. And the most that I've noticed different is they kind of yell a little bit more when the fingers are extended. Like, no eye pokes happen yet, but as they're kind of finding range and if they're going at their face with fingers open, they're quicker to say, hey, curl the fingers, put your hands down or whatever, I've seen a little bit of that, but I haven't noticed any difference on, because that fight happened, we're at about a month ago, right? And we've had an eye poke on every card. How many points have you seen taken away?
Yeah, you never see it.
None.
It's this question of intentional or not. Any other sport, if you tried to use that as a rule base, double dribble, but it wasn't intentional. So
right,
it doesn't work, and it doesn't work in MMA. As long as there's leeway for people to do it without penalty, it's going to continue to happen.
Right. So if you were to take away a point for each of the eye pokes where the action was stopped, even if you had Ian winning 29-28, that turns it into 28-27, and Bilal would have won the fight if you did it that way. Or at the very least, if you just give them one. And I'm not saying that this should be the way it's done, but let's just say hypothetically, like once is a very hard warning. Any after that is a point deduction, which is usually not the case. Usually it's like third or fourth before anything changes. If it would have been like that, we'd at least had a draw. But that's not what happened.
Did you hear what Darren Till had to say about Ian Gary after the fight?
I think I did. I'd have to go back and look. There's a lot of stuff that was said. I think I posted a lot of stuff in our chat about it.
Well, this, I think, is the best summary of Ian Gary that I've seen. As much as he's a good fighter, and I've tried to support Ian Gary.
Yes, I did see this.
He is just a proper wanker. A fake wanker at that. I think that's a good summary.
Right. He did say a whole lot more. I actually remember that now. So I think I sent that myself. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Let me find it. Because, yeah, that was actually pretty funny, all the stuff that he said. That's a very long thing to read, but Ian Gary is such a good fighter, man, but by God, he is possibly the fakest human on earth, fake beyond all beliefs. It's so hard to like him. I've literally sat in my bedroom with my own little demons in my head, telling me to force myself to like him. He's calling Khamzat a child. He was being fake. The whole interaction was fake. Side note, this is because of an interaction Ian Gary and Khamzat Chimaev have had backstage after the fights, but that's another story we'll get into. Anyway, so Darren Till continues here, and when Ian turned, you could see he was scared. Khamzat is like me. That's why we were best mates. If you chat trash. I'm going to keep the language kind of clean here. When we see you, I think he messed up on his wording here. If you chat when we see you, what is? Ian is a really good fighter, but he's just so unlikable. Yeah, the grammar here is a little off, but continuing. So unlikable. Even hating on Leon's performance the way he did. Gary got kicked out of the gym as he did of others because he's a wanker at the end of the day. As much as he's a good fighter, and I've tried to support Ian Gary, he's just a proper wanker, a fake wanker at that. That's the full quote there. So
that's a real tongue twister. Try saying a fake waker 5 times real fast. Fake waker, a fake waker, a fake waker, a fake waker.
Right. So I guess it's safe to say he's not a fan. So for the record, to cover a little bit more about that. So Arman Tsarukyan and Khamzat Chimaev are teammates, they're buddies. So Chimaev was hanging out with Arman Tsarukyan backstage after the fights, and Ian Gary was back there as well. And he ended up running into him, and he was congratulating Arman Tsarukyan on his win. And he saw Chimaev and pat him on the shoulder and said something and started to walk away. And then security got between them, and Ian Gary was like, "Oh, what's going on? He doesn't want to fight me. We're cool." And as he's saying that, Chimaev shoves Ian Gary really hard, and it turns to a really bad altercation where they're kind of barking at each other after that. And wait, hold on, they're cool 5 seconds ago. Then Chimaev shoves him. And so some people, myself included, saw that and well, Chimaev seems to have some anger issues. 1 second you're smiling at a guy and patting each other on the back, and then all of a sudden you shove him, want the fight. But then Chimaev's response was he was kind of patting me really hard in the back and grabbing in kind of a way he was trying to punk him out or something. It's kind of hard to tell from the video, so I don't really know. But I've seen both sides of that argument. Some people saying that it was some stuff with the body language, he was intentionally trying to provoke Chimaev. Others saying Chimaev is just really short-tempered and just ready to go off on anybody for anything. Honestly, it's not impossible for both to be true. So that was that.
Yep.
Anything else you want to say on this fight?
Yeah, I think that we have to accept that Gary's starting to move into title contention, which means we're getting closer to seeing him get his butt kicked.
Yeah, he actually, when he won this fight, he immediately called out Islam Makhachev, saying he's the best welterweight fighter in the world right now, so come fight, the real number one contender, and yada, yada, yada. Ian Gary's really good. He is really good. I'm not going to lie. He's very well-rounded. I've seen fights where he was losing in the stand-up, so he turned into a grappling match. And I've seen other fights where he was losing in the grappling, so he turns to a stand-up match. He could adapt because he is so good in both areas. He might not be the best in both areas, but more than likely he's going to be better than you in at least one of those areas. That being said, Islam Makhachev is a different kind of animal.
Actually, I think the best fight for Gary after this would be against Jack Did He Mean It?
Jack Did He Mean It?
I think that's got to be the best matchup, considering that Gary's ranked number 6.
That actually would be, excuse me, I think that actually would be a good fight. Turn that to a number one contender fight, or I don't know, because that also means number one contender fight for Jack Della Maddalena, or whatever, creative name you have for him. But honestly, if you do set that match up, Ian on his way up, Jack trying to hold this spot, maybe earn his way back up, or maybe on his way down, depending on how his next few fights go, that could be a pretty good fight. And if Ian wins at that point, I don't think you can deny him a title shot.
No. It's time for him to jump into the deep end and swim with the top 5. And I think that's a good test for him coming off of, with Jack coming off of a loss.
Right. Also, what's next for Bilal Muhammad, or who's next?
That's an interesting question there, because he's coming off a loss. You're going to need someone.
He's coming off 2 losses.
Yeah, you're not going to give him somebody in the top 5. So,
I mean, there's a few maybe you could put him against in the top 5 because you have like Morales and Prates and Shavkat are all ranked below him 3, 4, and 5, and he's still ranked number 2. And I don't know if those. I assume that this list has not been updated.
These rankings aren't updated yet.
Right. Yeah. So I guess it depends on how much they drop him down the rankings. There are some other people that are looking for a title shot, and he is a former champion. So maybe one of those guys in the bottom of the top 5 who's trying to earn their shot at a title. And there's some other people outside the top 5. Maybe some other people coming off of losses like Sean Brady. That could be a good fight. 2 guys that are more grappling heavy. So there's options out there. Bilal Muhammad is still going to be a threat in this division. He still is really good. His striking has improved a lot over the last, I'd say, year or 2. And of course, he has good wrestling. So, yeah.
Yeah, I could see him going up against Leon Edwards.
Well, I mean, he already fought and beat him for the title, so it'll be a rematch. But, yeah. If you want fresh matchups, there are other people. I think Sean Brady would be a good one because both are coming off of losses and both are good grapplers. So I think that would be a fun one.
Yeah.
And then moving down the card, you have Volkan Ozdemir going against Alonzo Menfield. Oh, my goodness. One of the most one-sided beatdowns I've ever seen.
Yeah, when you hear punches and bunches, this exemplified it. Ozdemir put him against the fence and just kept pounding him till he went down.
Dude, the combo that he threw at him, like the finishing sequence, I mean, everything, I mean, it was only a minute and a half, but everything leading up to that sequence at the end was just one-sided domination, just beautiful combos. But when he got him up against the fence, it was like, you know, like people who are into mixed martial arts or MMA, we kind of have a better idea of what we think is proper martial arts, what would really work in real life, because this is supposed to be the closest we could find to real life hand-to-hand combat. The stuff we grew up watching, the karate movies and kung fu movies, it's fun to watch, but that kind of stuff just wouldn't work. This was the closest I've seen where it's like that style of fight actually being pulled off in real time, because he had him against the cage and he was just like really quick, just pop, 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 just like an insane combination, almost like something you see out of a video game. It was ugly, and you could see.
And Mansfield was doing everything he could to duck, dive, dodge, weave. He was moving. He was doing it right.
He did the 5Ds.
Finding him.
He did the 5Ds, duck, dip. Yeah. Oh, what is it again? The duck, dip,
dodge,
dive.
dip, dive, duck, and dodge.
Right. He did the 5Ds. Yes, dodge was said twice, and then you throw a wrench at him.
Yeah, Ozdemir just knew where to punch every time that he tried to get out of the way. He connected.
That flurry at the end when he had Menfield up against the cage, or Menfield against the cage. Oh my goodness! I'm just glad I was not in his shoes. Whew, that was a beautiful sequence. Officially, it says KO knees and punches. It was mostly punches. It's like he threw a couple of knees, but it was mostly his hands. He smelled blood in the water and he didn't stop. And for once, it was a really good stoppage by Mark Goddard. I'm always worried whenever he is a ref and someone is stunned, because I've seen way too many times someone's stunned and maybe the finish is coming, but I've seen people come back from worse and he'll jump in. He's really bad about early stoppages. This was one case where it was perfect. You could see Menfield was stunned. He's up against the cage. He's taking a lot of punches and he's getting wobbly. And Goddard's like right there, like about to stop it. I'm like, please don't stop it yet. Please don't, because I'm going to be mad. It's going to be an early stoppage. People can complain about it. And then immediately, soon as Menfield dropped, because he did get dropped, like when he fell down after the flurry, that's when Goddard jumped in. I was like, yes, that right there, that is a perfect stoppage. That's how it should always be done.
Yep, 100%. And that's how we want our light heavyweights to fight.
Right. So I need to see what this guy's ranked right now. Let me pull up the rankings, because that was a great performance. Give me just a minute to pull up the rankings. I have them right here. Let's see where Volkan. That is a cool first name, dude. Volkan Ozdemir. I have the rankings right here. Just got to find featherweight, middleweight, blah, blah, blah. I see him ranked number 9. Again, this hasn't been updated, but he is in the top 10. Maybe it's time to put him against someone close to 5 to see if he's ready to break into the top 5. That's my opinion.
Let's see. Where's Manfield on this?
Manfield.
Manfield was number 14. Definitely give him someone top 5. Let's throw him at Khalil.
Khalil?
Yeah.
That sounds like a good fight. Khalil's coming off of a loss. Sometimes they try to do 2 people coming off a loss against each other. Sometimes they want 2 people coming off wins to go against each other. But still, Khalil Roundtree does have a lot of clout behind his name right now. He's put on a lot of really good performances.
So here's how I think about it. If you're going to move up in ranking in the next 4 to 5 ranks, it could be a win versus a win. But if you're going to move up more than 4 or 5 ranks and fight someone higher than that, they should be coming off a loss. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But either way, yeah, I think him being ranked, it's kind of weird how the ranking sometimes works. Like, if you're higher ranked to someone and you win, you might think, well, you don't deserve to move up, so you only face someone below you. But if you win in very dominant fashion, sometimes people look at that and go, maybe we should go ahead and bump them up a little bit, especially if you have some of these people above them who haven't been doing too well. For example, the person ranked right above him, number 6, even though he's a former champion, he's on, if I'm not mistaken, a 3-fight losing streak. I would not be mad if they put him above Jamal Hill after this, because what has Hill done at this point? You know what I mean? So,
yep. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, I mean, that's the sport, really. So, yeah, you could put him against a Hill, a Jan Blachowicz, Roundtree. I say give him one of these guys and see how it goes up from there, you know. I don't think you want to put him against the top 3, though. Olberg, Ankalaev, and Yuri, like, they're kind of in their own category. He's not there just yet. But I like to see this guy fighting against one of the other fringe top 5 guys next.
Yeah.
That was a great performance. It was only a minute and a half. I wish I had the stats up in front of me to see how many strikes he landed, because it was just a clinic. It was an absolute clinic.
Total strikes, 14 out of 37.
That's it. It didn't seem like a lot.
13 significant strikes.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but I remember watching the fight. Again, it was only a minute and a half, so.
Yeah.
I just remember watching that fight. I was like, dude, he is putting it on him. That was bad. Not a good showing for Alonzo Menafield, but, you know, he was ranked number 14. Yeah, it is what it is. Now, moving down the card, one more spot below we had, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name, Orobai. I've watched Orobai fight so many times.
I looked it up. It's Mixiet Spiklik. I learned how to say it from watching him as a Superman villain. The only way to defeat him is to get him to say his name backwards.
Okay. Miktibik Orobai. I've watched Orobai fight a handful of times. There was a fight he had in 2024 that was Fight of the Night, and I think should have probably been Fight of the Year. He lost that fight, but when the fight was over, his face is completely covered in blood, because he just does not stop. He has more heart than probably anybody in the UFC currently. He's a man who, it doesn't matter how much damage you're putting on him, he just doesn't quit. And he will put on.
Fifth-dimensional imp.
Because he's a what?
Fifth-dimensional imp.
Making more Superman references?
Yes.
Right. So this guy, like I said, he really doesn't have any quit in him. He's always pushing forward. He always gives really exciting fights. I've never seen a boring fight from this guy. And he's going against a guy who's moving down from middleweight, Jack Hermanson. Now, if you look at their stats, Orobai is 5'10", and his opponent, Jack Hermanson, is 6'1". So that's a 3-inch difference. I'm pretty sure they didn't measure correctly, because if you see this fight, if you watch this fight, do you really think that looked like a 3-inch difference in height?
No,
it was like David and Goliath.
Massively different.
It was like David and Goliath. Jack Hermanson dwarfed Orobai. He was towering over him. I don't know how that's supposedly a 3-inch difference, but did Orobai care?
Not in the least. He came out ready to go.
Like a berserker, just did not stop. He took it to Jack and just did not stop. 2 minutes, 46 seconds, puts him to sleep with one solid punch. Beautiful performance. I love to see it. I love to see Orobai win just because he's got that dog in him. Like I said, he's probably got more heart than anybody outside of Neil Magny in the UFC currently.
What you don't see very often, and we saw in this fight, was every strike in the fight was considered a significant strike.
I believe it. He was just throwing hard, but also throwing accurate and just wore down. Like Jack Hermanson, even though he's way bigger, he was on his back foot the whole time, or at least most of the time. If he did try to move forward, Orobai's like, okay, and just hit him even more. Just wore him down and finish him off. It was great.
And this will surprise you, but Hermanson actually had more strikes than Mixapitlik.
I'm not too surprised at that, but most of his punches were almost like desperation, like just kind of swinging wildly, and he wasn't really landing a whole lot of flush punches. Maybe a few, but it was more like those desperation strikes. You just kind of throw something out there. Someone's coming at you really hard, swinging really hard, you instinctively just start throwing your hands back. You're going to land some, but the difference was, Orobai was effectively punching. He was effectively kicking, mostly punching. He wasn't doing a ton of kicks, if I recall correctly. Orobai was the one that was pushing a pace and landing accurately, landing in very dangerous spots, very painful spots, and just took him out. This is probably my favorite fight to watch on the whole card, to be honest with you. Just that performance was fantastic. And he did not get a performance of the night bonus. There was 4 performance of the night bonuses that were given out. None for fight of the night. Once again, it was just all performance of the night. Orobai was not one of them, and I think that was a robbery in itself because that was really fun to watch.
Absolutely. And I think that Dana is a little too stingy with his bonuses as it is.
Right. So,
we've got repeated cases now of fighters calling out that they need the $50,000. And it's like, man, these guys are active. They're professional athletes. They need to be taken care of.
Right. So I'm looking at the rankings here, and I'm trying to figure out what's next for Orobai based off of where he's ranked in the top 15. Without looking, can you guess where he is ranked in the top 15? Just take a guess.
13th.
He's not ranked.
Really?
What a travesty. How is Orobai not ranked, man?
Well, what about Hermanson?
I'm not sure. Orobai is 15-2 for the record. To be fair, he hasn't fought a bunch of really big names, so he's still working his way up. Hermanson also is not ranked.
Okay, so it's probably about time for Mixapitlik to have a chance at the top 15.
Right. I think that would be a good move. Like I said, he is 15-2, but to be fair, he's fought mostly, no-name people, so it's time to put him against a name.
Yeah, let's see. You got Colby Covington. There we go.
He shouldn't be ranked.
He's ranked 13th. I think that's a good place to start him off.
He shouldn't be employed. I say put him against Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal gives good fights. Yeah.
Colby's higher ranked. Let's go ahead and knock him out of the top 15 once and for all.
Colby Covington, I really doubt is going to fight anymore. If he does... it probably would be against someone like Orobai because he's basically just fodder for the people trying to work the way up and get ranked. So I could see that happening, but he hasn't really been too active lately. So I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, moving down the card. Once again, another KO. We had 3 KOs in a row, starting with this one.
We found Waldo.
We found Waldo. More like Waldo found someone else.
Waldo found Shamil.
He found Shamil's chin.
It was a bloodbath.
So check this out. Waldo Cortez Acosta has fought 5 times this year. He's won 4 of them.
And wants a 6th.
And he wants a 6th one. He walked away without a scratch in his last fight. Walked away without a scratch in this fight. And he said that he hasn't been fighting enough, wants to get at least one more in. in 2025. So he's trying to get a fight in December. I think they'll give it to him. I just have a feeling they're going to give it to him. When you have two back-to-back performances, I think these were 3 weeks apart, back-to-back performances where you don't get a scratch on you and you win in devastating fashion and you're asking for another fight to close out 2025, I think they might give it to him. So put him on the prelims on the next pay-per-view if you have an opening left on 3/23. Or if not, if you got to sell the fight night, so be it. But let's give him one more fight because that would be great to see this man go 6 in 2025. Long story short, Waldo Cortez Acosta needed less than a minute and a half, 1 minute, 22 seconds to knock out Shamil Gaziev. This was, once again, man, these 3 KOs in a row were they weren't slugfests that went back and forth and then one of them just happened to get that lucky punch. All 3 of these were absolute clinics by the winning fighter in these fights. Waldo just took it to Shamil.
Yeah, Waldo's got 8 of his last 10 that he's won. He lost a decision to Sergey Pavlovich, and then in 2023, he lost a decision to Marcos Rogero de Lima, whoever that happens to be. So he's got a solid record to fall back on, and staying active like this, I think, is the best way for him to climb the ladder because it's going to take an active champion to bring back the heavyweight division. And Waldo is starting to show that he has potential to be more than just a fat guy with heavy hands.
Yeah, five fights this year, 3 of them by knockout, 1 win by decision, and 1 close decision loss. This dude's dangerous, man.
Yep.
So, and he's
in his prime.
Right. He just beat Gaziev, who is 14-2, so not a bad record at all. Another guy who's trying to work his way up. Again, kind of like a couple of people we talked about previously. Most of his wins been against mostly lower ranked people, but still, that's a pretty solid record. So.
Yep, and he's only 34 years old.
Let's see what these guys are ranked. I'm looking at the heavyweight division currently. Gaziev, now again, these haven't been updated. Gaziev was 11, Waldo's 6. So actually, Waldo was fighting down here. You know what? Put him against Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades hasn't fought in a little while. Put him against Curtis Blades. I was about to say Almeida because, we all don't like Almeida. But Almeida fought recently, and who wants to see Almeida fight? Curtis Blades has been a little longer since he's fought. I would like to see Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Curtis Blades in December. How about that? How about that for matchmaking?
I agree with that. That would be excellent. And then he gets to, if he wins that, he gets to avenge that decision to Sergey.
Well, you could always say it like Chael Sonnen does. Sergey Pavlovich. Not Pavlovich and not Sergey. Sergey. That's one of my favorite Chael mispronunciations is Sergey Pavlovich.
Oh.
I love the way he mispronounces names. And he does it, I think, is more of a joke than me. I mispronounce the names honestly. All right, so working our way down this card. Well, actually, before I get into that, anything else you want to say about this fight, this heavyweight fight?
Cortez Acosta, he's coming. He's time for the top 5 to get ready because the man's motivated and he's climbing that ladder with a purpose.
Yeah, I'd say between him and who else was it? We had Walker, not Johnny Walker, his brother. His first name slipped my mind. Walker and Acosta and who else? Walter Walker. I'm trying to think of because we've talked about a couple of fights lately where there's been a few impressive heavyweights that we think should be on the radar for people to keep an eye on that are working their way up. I think those are probably the best 2 let's say prospects. Ones who aren't quite in title contention yet, but they're good prospects. I say Waldo Cortez Acosta and Walter Walker are the 2 that I'm most interested in seeing working the way up. Because all these other names that you see on here are people who've actually been in the rankings for a long time, and they've kind of just been sitting still because they can't win enough matches. They win a couple, lose a couple. As much as I like Curtis Blades, for example, I'm a big fan of him, but he wins a couple, loses a couple. You know, he kind of floats where he's at. I don't ever see him become a champion. And you could even say the same about Sergey. You know, he's ranked number 3, but yeah, he's had a couple losses that set him back, and I think it's kind of clear that he's not quite champion caliber. We have a lot of those guys. We need more up-and-coming contenders that are not these stagnant names that have been here forever. And Waldo Cortez Acosta, Walter Walker are 2 of those names. There was another name. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was I covered him on a podcast a while back, podcast episode. It was on the prelims, I think on a fight night. I'm going to have to go back and look at all the different events, and I don't have time to do that right now, but he won, and I pointed out that he had really good takedowns, a really good control, submission attacks, and ground and pound, and he won, and he's not ranked currently. I'm trying to remember what his name was, but that was another one I said, if you want to keep your eyes on contenders up and coming, keep an eye out for that name. I can see if I could pull up that name whenever you start talking about your bits on the next fight. So I think we can go ahead and jump into that next fight.
Okay.
You're ready for it. So we had... pull it up. Where'd it go?
Good luck.
Oh, this one, Kyoji Horiguchi. I already looked up how to pronounce that one. I was prepared. Don't ask me to pronounce his opponent's name, though. So
Ulanbekov.
Tagir Ulanbekov. That's actually pretty accurate. Goes against Kyoji Horiguchi, and I didn't take any notes on this fight, so I can't remember how back and forth it was. It did make it to the 3rd round, so I can't remember how dominant Kyoji was, but he did win this fight by technical submission, which means he put the dude to sleep. The dude didn't tap. He choked him unconscious with a rear naked choke, and the finishing sequence was incredible. It was really, really good. As far as the rest of the fight, I didn't take notes. I was watching a lot of these fights, and if I'm not taking notes actively in all of these, I can't remember every little detail. So forgive me. I can't tell you exactly how this fight played out, but I will say the big standout from this fight is he wins. Congrats to him. He gets interviewed like always, and this dude said he wants to fight for the title. Why is this interesting? A lot of people do this, right? Because the champion in his division, the flyweight division, is Alexander Pantoja, who is his teammate. And he says, yes, you might be my teammate, but I will beat your ass. That was his words.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
This was a very one-sided fight. Total strikes, Kyoji, 120 out of 157. Tagir, 10 out of 32.
Ooh.
Significant strikes, 49 out of 77 for Kyoji. Tagir, 6 out of 27. Takedowns, 1 out of 2 attempts for Tagir, 0 out of 1 attempt for Kyoji. This was... and then each of them had a submission attempt. The difference is Kyoji's actually stuck. So, yeah, this was a butt kicking.
I'm about to go back and watch that one again. I love whenever I see a fight that gets to a good submission sequence because, you know me. I'm a big submission fan.
Yep, you like to grab limbs and twist them.
Or choke people unconscious. I wish I was better at the choke game. I'm more better with limb locks because I'm a bigger guy. So I'm still trying to find this heavyweight fighter. Wasn't it Mario something? The name is starting to come back to my head.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Because you were always talking about trying to build up the heavyweight division. We need heavyweight contenders, yes. Up and coming. Let me see. There's also this Vitor Petrino. That might have been who it was.
The crazy thing about the heavyweight division is it's the smallest division in the UFC right now with only 35 people signed up for it. You rank 15 of them, which only leaves 20 up-and-comers out of that aren't ranked. No wonder you only see a heavyweight fight every 3 cards. We need to really ramp up recruitment on the heavyweight division if we want to see this division be great like it used to be.
Right. All right, so I got 2 names up right here. When I was talking about up-and-coming heavyweights we need to keep our eyes on. One of them is, and I think this one I was talking about had really good takedowns, as Vitor Petrino. He fought a couple months back and completely dominated. And then we have Mario Pinto. Is he heavyweight? I'm trying to confirm that right now. But anyway, yeah, I want to see some more dominant young blood coming up, taking over the heavyweight division. Yeah, I have it right here. Mario Pinto and Vitor Petrino. Those are 2 other names that I'm going to throw out there to keep an eye on. They are not ranked currently, but I've been watching their fights, and they are dangerous. So I want to see them start fighting some people in the top 15, get their name up, because a lot of these names, the vast majority of these names are very stagnant names that have just been sitting here for years. Derek Lewis, as much as we love him, has been sitting around the low top 10 for probably close to a decade at this point. You know, we need some new blood coming through.
Tai Tuivasa.
That's another one.
Talk about someone who's been there for too long.
Win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. But what is his? I always talk about the. Let me pull up his sheet right here. Tai Tuivasa. You know, I talk about the 67% theory. He's below that. 14 wins, 8 losses. Yeah. He's below Gatekeeper. He's on a 5-fight losing streak. Yeah. We got to get some of these stale names out of there. But anyway, enough of that. So we also had some fights on the prelims here. Actually, before I get into that, Tsukyoji Horiguchi wanted to fight his teammate, who is the champion. I don't know if that was more just kind of like silly banter, like being funny, or if he actually does want to fight his teammate and doesn't care. What do you think about calling out? Would you call out your teammate if he was champion in your weight division?
So it would be one thing if he was actually in position to get a title shot, but he's not.
Yeah, it's fair.
It's got to be more playful than anything else. I'm coming for your belt. But by the time he gets to climb the ranks and get up there, the odds are someone else is going to have the belt.
Yeah, where's he ranked? I'm looking right here. He's not ranked.
Yeah, see.
He's not ranked at all.
It's not a real call out.
Right.
You know, that's like Mike Tyson. I want the heavyweight title. When are we going to box? Mike Tyson doesn't care that I want that title.
Right. All right, so moving down this card, I don't know if we need to cover all of these. I will say that this featherweight fight, Luke Riley and Bogdan Grad, this was a pretty fun fight, and I do remember like second round starts, and Luke was just like berserker mode, finishes Bogdan Grad in 30 seconds of the second round. That was really fun to watch. We had Ilia Toporia's brother fought, Alexandre Topuria, going against Bekzat Almakhan. Hopefully I said that properly. That one was a weird one. It was two judges gave it 30-27, kind of like when I talked about the Ian Machado Gary fight. 2 judges had it 30-27, one had it 29-28, and I don't know how the judges had it 30-27. I had it a clear 29-28. Not a whole lot to say on that. This is another one here. Kind of like the 3 KOs we talked about in the main event. We had another KO that I think is worth mentioning on the undercard, a middleweight fight between Ismail Nardiev versus Ryan Loder. And Ryan Loder, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, I might have to double check this, was also coming from another weight division. And he just gets murked in the first round, a minute and a half. Really, really bad KO. Like, this is probably the ugliest KO of the night when it comes to like how you look whenever you hit the canvas. This was a really, really bad one. Did you catch that one?
No, I didn't watch the prelim card.
I watched it. Again, I wasn't taking notes, so I can't remember every little detail of all these fights, but I do remember that fight. I remember Ryan Loder getting put down. I was like, ooh, he looks dead. That was a bad knockout. We had a lot of knockouts. We had 2 on the prelims and then 3 in a row on the main card. And then we had a handful of submissions as well. Only a few decisions here and there. Overall, this was a pretty solid card to watch. Even though it was a free prelim taking place over, or not prelim, a free fight night taking place over in Qatar, it still delivered. It still had a lot of good fights. I don't remember any boring fights. Even some of these that I watched that went to decision, I don't remember any of them being that boring. So I think some of the judging was a little weird, but overall, I think the right people won. Still with a bit of an asterisk on the Ian Machado Gary and Bilal Muhammad fight, but that was basically UFC Fight Night Qatar.
Yep.
Anything else you want to talk about when it comes to the results of this card or the future for any of the people fighting this card, or any of the after effects, like the backstage drama between anyone or anything like that, or any news that's come out from this?
No, what I want to say, and our listeners can go to our Facebook page and give us ideas, is next week we have a free week where we can talk about literally anything. And we should get some votes on what we should talk about. What topic do our listeners want to hear us discuss?
Yes. Now, I will say that is 1 week before UFC 323, so we could do like a preview, but the previews usually don't take as long. We just kind of give our opinions on who might win and who might lose, but it still gives us a lot of time where we could talk about other topics. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. I'm not as active on Twitter. I'm the one that does most of the social media stuff. But yeah, feel free to get a little more involved if you want. And, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff to help get our name out there. Tell your friends and get them involved in the conversation. We really want this to be more interactive. So if you have things you want us to talk about or any ideas on how you think we could improve the show or anything like that, it's very easy. I think the easiest way, because everybody's on Facebook, find us on Facebook. Every single time I drop an episode, I make a post saying that a new episode is out. Find the post, comment on it, let us know what you think, and we could go from there. If you don't use Facebook, you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You could even go to YouTube. Anyone could go to YouTube. All of these episodes get uploaded to YouTube, and you can just go into the comment section and say what you want to say on there, and I'm going to read those, and we'll respond accordingly.
We're on X as well.
X, also known as Twitter. I refuse to call it X. I see the joke you're trying to make there, but I am not on X, but I am on Twitter. Well, that's all I got. Anything else you want to add?
Thanks for tuning into the Ground and Pound cast. Go to our social media. Comment what you want us to discuss next weekend. If we choose your comment or your topic, we'll give a shout out to you during the show.
Right. So if you can, do us a favor, do us a few favors. Find us on the social medias, like, subscribe, comment, share, tell your friends, and do not watch Power Slap because it sucks.
Ain't nothing wrong with Power Slap. It delivers exactly what we need when we need it.
You mean CTE, right?
Yes.
See you next week.